Fear, anxiety, panic is the right word for Fulani Militias and Islamic terrorists in Nigeria. This is after the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, placed U.S. Department of War on alert against Islamic terrorists in Nigeria. Let me bring you up to speed with the way Daily Post put it. He said genocide, panic, mixed reactions, Trump's threat of military action in Nigeria. He goes further to say that the diplomatic row between Nigeria and the United States of America has worsened after Donald Trump on Saturday threatened to take military action if nothing is done about the alleged Christian genocide in Africa's most populous country. He said President Trump, in a statement on his official Truth Social platform, placed the U.S. Defense Department on alert to prepare for war. Trump further threatened to stop all U.S.-backed aid to Nigeria if President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration did not end the alleged massacring of Christians. If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. He goes further to say that I am hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. He goes further to say that he wrote in his now viral statement on the Truth Social platform. Now, going forward, he said we are preparing for action. This is coming from those who will be responsible to take action in the event that Trump say go ahead. He said we are preparing for action. We will kill Islamic terrorists in Nigeria. This is coming from Peter Hegseth. He said, reacting to Trump's statement, U.S. Defense Secretary Peter Hegseth said the Department of War is preparing for action. According to him, the U.S. will wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities in Nigeria. He goes further to say that he wrote, the killing of innocent Christians in Nigeria and anywhere must end immediately. The Department of War is preparing for action. Either the Nigerian government protects Christians or we will kill the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. He said the Nigerian government has not responded to the fresh threat by Donald Trump. He goes further to say that I recall that President Trump on Friday designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern over alleged Christian genocide. The U.S. government decision was swiftly rejected by the Nigerian government and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in separate statements. The President Tinubu, in his official response, said the country stands firmly as a democracy governed by constitutional guarantees of religious liberty. Earlier, the Nigerian government, through its Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in a statement on Saturday, said the claim by the president does not reflect the situation on ground. But the question here is, I want to say that it is now becoming increasingly clear that American government, just as we saw in the past, where they will go to Syria and some other places to do some precision bombing, that Nigeria may be the next destination. But let me say at this point that what is coming from the America currently is going to be a win-win situation for every peace-loving Nigerian. Because for those who are in the terrorist ravage, bandits ravage, Fulani military ravage states like Zamfara, Katsina, even Kaduna, even Kwara, for peace-loving Nigerians in those states, I think they will be happy with this situation. Because I think this is the best time to even start asking questions. Because we remember that somebody like Kao Baraje was emphatic that they even brought Fulani Militias into Nigeria prior to 2015 election to oust a Jonathan out of office. As far as I'm concerned, the likes of Shegumi will not speak up now. Because what we are looking at is we want a situation where Nigerians can sleep with their eyes closed. That is why I'm saying that the government of Nigeria should cooperate with American governments to stamp out every Islamic terrorist, every Fulani militia. Because these are people who do not deserve mercy. These are people who take life at will. These are people who have no value for human life. Considering the operational modus operandi of the likes of Tonji Bello, Ada Alero, Akwashi, that operates in the Faskari local government area of course, Katsina State. I think even recently, the approach of Nigerian government, allied Interpol, to arrest about 11 terrorist financiers in Nigeria. I want to say that even Nigerian government before now have started keying into this angle of allowing international bodies to come here to help us eradicate these bandits. But I want to say that the issue of fighting terrorism in Africa by America under Trump did not start today. That's why I want to bring this other angle that happened previously, though this year, because this one came from a U.S. Air Force commander. Remember that in prior to this time, that is a situation where U.S. Air Force said that they will be targeting terrorists across Africa. Let me bring you up to speed with this development, because this one is coming from Premium Times. It says U.S. Air Force will target terrorists across Africa. American general. It says we will continue to go after terrorist organizations that threaten our African partners as well as the United States, he said. But going forward, he said James Hacker, that is the man in question, he said James Hacker, commander of the U.S. Air Forces Europe and Africa, says the U.S. Air Force will carry out airstrikes against terrorist targets across Africa. Mr. Hacker stated this at a digital news conference while attending the 2025 African Air Chief Symposium on Wednesday in Lusaka, Zambia. The news agency of Nigeria reported that the digital conference was organized to enable Mr. Hacker to discuss U.S. commitments to military partnership with African nations and AAC's operations. So Mr. Hacker said terrorist groups like ISIS were high-value targets that threaten African nations and the U.S. and would be targeted by U.S. as it did against ISIS in Somalia recently. Remember that they already did a similar thing in Somalia, and as you have it, if you look, take your attention to Nigeria, when you talk about terrorists, talk about banditry, we are talking about Fulani Militias, Islamic terrorists. Because what we currently, if you go to Global Terrorism Index, it will tell you that the Fulani militia of Nigerian extraction is the fourth most dangerous terrorist organization in the world. So what does that mean? It tells you that the world is already aware about the dangerous trend the Fulani militias in Nigeria pretend. So you got to show that the American government, if they virtually come to Nigeria to carry out precision attack, the people that should be worried are the bandits, Fulani militias, and perhaps their sympathizers and their sponsors. I must say that Nigerian government, I like the idea that about 11 terrorist financiers have been arrested already by Interpol, as you can see on the screen. This is a welcome development, because I think this is probably the first time we are seeing even Nigerian government allowing Interpol to come into this country to apprehend, of course, Fulani or rather terrorist financiers. Because we understand that sometime in the last administration of Muhammad Buhari, even the United Arab Emirates gave an indication that they already have some names, lists of terrorist financiers, sponsors. But surprisingly, the government of Muhammad Buhari, under the 8 years, did not do anything meaningful in collaborating with United Arab Emirates or any other foreign country for that matter to arrest and prosecute those who have been implicated or who have been indicted or who have been fingered, as the case may be. But I want to say that this development, for me, like I said earlier on, is a win-win situation for Nigerian citizens, even for Nigerian government and United States of America. Because if you are coming to save humanity, if you are coming to disalive those who have no value for human life, who keep people at will, I think is a welcome development. Because I don't think any Nigerian will be sad if we see the lives of Toji Bello being neutralized by precision bombing of the United States of America. I don't think any Nigerian will be sad if we see the lives of Ada Aleru being neutralized by American-led forces just to make Nigerians have a peaceful environment. But as far as I'm concerned, the best Nigerian government can do is to collaborate with American government to see every area, in fact, anybody that is linked to sponsoring of terrorism. I want to believe that that person should be named, shamed, arrested, and prosecuted. And if the likes of Akwashi that operates in the Faskari local government area of Katsina State, as you can see currently, a situation where bandits now come out to negotiate with people, with communities, with even state governments, though the government of Katsina State deny any involvement in negotiation. But the question is, we can clearly see in that state, and even in Zamfara, how bandits will come out, fully armed, to a negotiation table. And after peace deal, they go back to their abode with the same arm. So the question is, who now own the sovereignty of the states? If bandits can come out fully armed to do this. That is where I'm saying that we need the collaboration of those who have the capacity to fight this banditry, these Islamic terrorists. I cannot forget in a hurry how American Navy SEALs came to Nigeria under Muhammadu Buhari to rescue a 27-year-old American Philip who was kidnapped in Niger, taken to Sokoto State here in Nigeria. They came here, they rescued him unharmed. That is what we call competence. And I'm not saying, what I'm saying is, I've always maintained it, and I think I continue saying it, because I believe that it cannot be overemphasized about the need for Nigerian government to acquire monopoly of coercive power. When I mean Nigerian government, I'm talking about the three tiers of government. The federal government, the state governments, the local governments must, as a matter of urgency and necessity, collaborate to acquire monopoly of coercive power. Because that's what makes the government ultimate. That's the only way we can use our might to decimate the terrorists. Because at this point, I want to believe that those who play on the intelligence of the armed forces, who play prank, who make it impossible for the armed forces and even the Nigerian government to achieve success, I want to believe that currently they will be on the run. They will be on the run because we are now possibly having a higher power. I'm saying this particularly because if we saw what happened when the Jonathan government postponed the election in 2015 for 2 weeks to enable the then government push back Boko Haram, according to a former House of Assembly member from Borno State, who made it very clear that a Jonathan went and brought in machineries who were doing excellently well, who were leveraging on technology to fight Boko Haram, and they were achieving results. But according to him, they were going for precision bombing, and they were coming back with results. They photographed the picture of the place they bombed before and after bombing. But the question is, when the Muhammadu Buhari took over in 2015, he jettisoned the idea, send them packing. So the question is, who is deceiving who? That is where I'm saying that the issue of genocide in Nigeria, the major point is Nigerian government should collaborate with American government. Anybody that is indicted should be investigated. Anybody that is, of course, found wanting should be prosecuted. That is not to say that nobody is supporting any killing. Whether you call the person a Christian, a Muslim, an idol worshipper, you deserve dignity of life. But the question is, we are not comfortable with a situation where we have a situation where some people will come and be killing Nigerians in the name of Islamic terrorists. Because I say this with every sense of responsibility. If you look at the statement that came from a former president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, when he had conversation with Trump in the first term of Trump as the president of the United States of America, Buhari was emphatic that most of the bandits that are in Nigeria, operating in Nigeria, are people who come from different parts of the world. Burkina Faso, Mali, Libya, particularly Libya, because according to him, that when Gaddafi fell, that most of his lieutenants, most of his followers left Libya, and that the only training they had is how to shoot gun, and that some of them find their way in Nigeria. But the question is, even if some of them find their way in Nigeria, Buhari, that was a war veteran, a military personnel, all his 8 years, what did he achieve in fighting this insurgency? We understand that under his watch, even insurgency metamorphosed, mutated, because we clearly saw them changing forms, mutating to different other groups. For instance, a salutary organization was not in the picture. Even the issue of banditry that we now see in the regular society was not in the picture until after Muhammadu Buhari came on board. They were all virtually in Sambisa forest. It was during the time of Muhammadu Buhari we now saw banditry in another dimension, terrorism in another dimension, hibernating in the states. Because if you take attention to Kwara State, for instance, it's a whole lot of issue entirely. A situation where people cannot live comfortably in their ancestral homes, where communities are being sacked, where bandits now reign supreme. So I must encourage the president, Senator Bola Tinubu, that let him take decisive action against the bandits, against the Fulani Militias, against Islamic terrorists. And I want to tell you that Nigerians, particularly patriotic ones, are with him. He should not despair. He should forge ahead, because for me, to fight banditry, to fight Fulani Militias, to fight Islamic terrorists is a legitimate thing to do as a government. Because these are people who have no value for human life. If you even look at the statement that came from a former governor of Kaduna State, talking about Manan Lassi, talking about Erufai, it was emphatic. The question is, we must, as a people, as a country, collectively come together to win this war. And the best way to winning it is what I've always maintained: the government possessing monopoly or coercive power. I must say that it is unacceptable, the manner of negotiation we currently see, a situation where the likes of Adaleru, Tojibelo, Akwashi, that operates in the Faskari local government area of Katsina State, currently come out to engage the communities for peace. That peace is not sustainable, it's not acceptable, because it exposes Nigerian state, sovereign state, as a weak state. And the question is, how long do you sustain such peace? Because each time they feel dissatisfied, talking about the bandits, they will always turn around to come back to start maiming, kidnapping, and killing. Like we saw in Zamfara the other time, where it was reported that after a peace broke down, they came back to start kidnapping people, even in the mosque. So, like I always say, just as those Ansaru terrorist leaders are having their day in court, cooling off in the cell, the likes of Adaleru, the likes of Tojibelo should wait for their own day, because certainly they must be arrested. Certainly they must be prosecuted, or otherwise they should be neutralized in the battlefield. Because even the window through which at times state governments create, through which they reintegrate the terrorists into the society, I begin to question, what do you think How do you think the military personnel who are in the trenches, in the battlefields, in all the theaters of operation fighting, how do you think they will feel? Because most of them will lose their colleagues in the fight against insurgency, against terrorism. How do you now want family of those who lost their loved ones, who were fighting terrorism, to feel when they see repentant Boko Haram? Support repentant Boko Haram. I call them support repentant Boko Haram, support repentant bandit, because I don't think there's anything genuine repentance. How do you want them to feel when they see those who kill their loved ones being dressed in robe, in white clothing, receiving amnesty from government? That is where it is very necessary for government to put monopoly power. Because once you have that, you now place the bandits, the terrorists on disadvantage. They come from a weak point. If they beg to surrender arm, they surrender and they will be prosecuted. Because by the time they are coming with their hands to negotiate for peace, they are coming from a point of strength. And again, the idea of state governments not jumping at the opportunity of forest guard with the speed of light is what I begin to question why. Because I believe that as we have it, that the state governors ought to be jumping at this opportunity of forest guard with a speed of light. Because for me, this in a way give them the opportunity to be in charge in their respective states. You have been saying that the state governors should have some level of security power to operate. And I want to believe that this forest guard initiative of federal government have come to give them that leverage. But the question is, why are they not jumping at it with a speed of light? It's another question that we need to put forward to the state governors, particularly in those states where issues of banditry, Fulani Militias is very high. Talking about states like Zamfara, Katsina, Kwara, and all of that. Because personally, I've been a very strong advocate that the governors should not just be going by the name of the governors and the chief security officer of their respective states, but rather that they should be given some level of security power to operate. And I want to believe that this forest guard initiative are going to give them that leverage. But at this point, let me say a very big thank you for your time. This is Salamina Namisabatu.